All right, y'all. So if you are our friends or family, or you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, you saw that we posted a new family photo of us and our son. It's been a really, really long journey. We are paper pregnant. Paper pregs.
Paper pregs.
And along the way, we've gotten so many questions. Honestly, we've gotten so many questions, not just about our situation, but we've gotten so many questions just about adoption in general.
Yeah.
I think that in our community especially, it's something that's not talked about. It's something that is actually more prevalent than people realize, but it's just really taboo and sometimes hidden.
Yeah.
And so our process has led us to really be passionate about the system. It's led us to really be passionate about adoption and foster care in general. And so we decided to create videos. We are going to tell y'all about our journey.
Yeah.
We're going to tell y'all about some of the things that you didn't know, things that we went through. We're going to answer questions. We are going to be a support system for people that decide to go through this, or for people that are going through this. So we kind of wanted to do this first video to tell you why.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a really tough process, and we've met so many people along the way that's actually been adopted. And you know, like when you meet someone that's in the military, served, you know, overseas in a war, or just stationed somewhere, and you know, the normal thing to do is, hey, thank you for your service. Well, honestly, we've gotten that approach from a lot of different people. Just people come to us, hey, thank you for doing that. Thank you for opening your home. I was adopted. And people start telling us their stories. Yeah. And it's just amazing to see how many stories are out there, things that people have gone through, and then what we've experienced. And then what I've seen working in mental health for a number of years. And it just kind of puts us to a point to where we feel like this platform is important for us to take the step moving forward.
It's a crazy story in itself as to why we decided to. It's also even crazier how God worked through it.
Man.
Honestly, Carl has a background in mental health, and so he's worked with kids that fall in the foster care system, and mental, just with mental illnesses and different things like that. And I have actually always wanted to adopt. A lot of people come up to us and say, why don't you just want to have your own kids? Which, can I just say that that's rude? Like, guys, there's an etiquette that needs to happen with foster care and adoption. I think, just like how pregnant women say, like, don't come up to me and touch my belly. Don't come up to me and ask like rude questions or tell me that I've gained weight and I know that. There are certain things you just really shouldn't ask, and if you do, you should probably figure out how to ask it. We've had so many people just say, why don't you want kids of your own? Or you can't have none, like just so rudely, and like it is not okay. So I'm speaking for all foster moms and adoptive moms out there. I know that, sometimes when you don't know things, you ask things, but how you ask really matters. Yeah. So please caution. Yeah, so I always wanted to adopt. It was something that we actually talked about from the very beginning. Our plan was to have a couple kids ourselves and then to adopt a child. And God laughed at our plan. That's really what happened. We've been married for almost 5 years now, and we tried for the first couple of years. And anyone that's married knows that the first couple of years are very hard. So we went through some trials and some tribulations. There were definitely moments, even in this past year, where we didn't think we were going to make it. There were moments where we definitely considered going our separate ways. But we tried and it wasn't successful. So I thought that there was probably something wrong with me, that maybe I couldn't conceive. I have always been irregular. So I remember I was buying those like stick ovulation tests, and I was taking them every single day, and it never said that I was ovulating. So I was like, what's wrong with me? I'm not ovulating. It's gotta be me. So I ended up going to a fertility doctor. And when I went to the fertility doctor, they checked everything, and they just basically were like, you probably just can't tell when you're ovulating. because everything looks good. They told me I had more eggs than I should at my age. So the irregular issue actually helps benefit me because it saved up some eggs. And so they were like, we're going to put you on Clomid.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that when I was on Clomid?
Oh, yeah. Crazy.
I was crazy.
I mean, crazier than normal. You kind of crazy, but it was like another level of crazy.
It was bad, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I didn't feel like myself. I felt like so emotional, and I'm not that emotional of a person, but I felt like I would cry about nothing. I mean, I was angry and I couldn't control it. And I remember this feeling of like, I can't control my emotions. This is crazy. This is horrible. I mean, it was one of the worst things like ever going through that cycle of Clomid. And I remember I ended up looking on, you can hear our son laughing and playing in his room. If you hear him in the background, we apologize because he is all right. I remember going on like online, Googling and trying to see like, what is this whole Clomid thing about? And I remember like looking up articles and it said the Clomid crazies, like it's a real thing. I saw that there was someone on there that said she went to dinner with her husband and he didn't want to order dessert and she did, and she realized at that very moment they weren't meant to be. It was like crazy stories, like it really just messes you up that badly. But so we went through this whole cycle of Clomid. They found out that I was fine. I actually did ovulate as scheduled per the Clomid. And then we still didn't conceive. So we were trying to figure out, okay, what's the issue? So my doctor said, your husband has to be checked because we can't put you through this again and not know if there is an issue on his end. So we had to check you both out to see what's up. So it was because of that Carl decided to go to the doctor.
At that point, he said I had to get checked. We went and had some tests ran. Ended up going to my doctor. He's like, hey, you need to go see a urologist. So I went to see a urologist to see a specialist. And he did a number of tests. And I want to say, like, I'm a very private guy. And this process was probably one of the most violating processes that I've ever had in my life. Like, I've never pulled my pants down to that many strangers ever. I mean, it's like,
wow.
Every nurse, doctor coming in. All right, drop them, let me take a look. And it's just so invasive, you know? They try to make it, you know, kind of easy, but this guy was cool. My urologist was a good guy. He didn't make it too uncomfortable. We had some ultrasounds ran, right?
Mm-hmm. Testicular ultrasounds.
Yeah, testicular ultrasounds, because they couldn't figure out anything in the semen analysis. They couldn't find anything in my blood.
Well, they did find in the semen analysis that there was no sperm.
Yeah, well, it was a small number, right?
Yeah.
Which they thought was odd because I was a really healthy guy. Gotta lose some weight, but I'm a healthy guy. So they said, all right, we got to figure out what's going on inside. I mean, he did this one test where he literally took it and squeezed it, like 2 hands. He said, hey, bro, this is going to hurt a little bit. Squeezed to see if he felt like a knot. And I almost, if Rachel wasn't in the room when he did that, I might have teared, but I was holding it together. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's squeezing it. And I'm like, got the ultrasound down, and I'm just having flashbacks right now. So ultrasound showed that I had a mass inside my right testicle, and they didn't know if it was cancerous or not. And so everyone was a little alarmed, a little worried, and so we scheduled the surgery. Had the surgery done. They cut me open. They decided once they cut me open, if it was cancerous, they're just gonna remove the whole thing. If it wasn't, they're just gonna remove the mass, which is almost like half of my testicle, and then, you know, seal me up, send me back home. Painful process. Well, I couldn't really like go outside for like a month, really, or like a couple weeks. I didn't walk for 2 weeks for sure. I stayed in bed. I couldn't move. Whew! Wish that on no man, okay? But I did this for my baby so I could have a baby, okay? And still, no action, Jackson. And we were like, what's going on? So really at that point, I felt defeated. going through the surgery, had these tests ran, and you forgot that before I even had the surgery done, they put me on Clomid. And I felt crazy.
Oh yeah, so we both were like psycho.
I was like,
and they
me
say
off
when
this.
you take that, like it can last like past your first cycle, lady. So it was like I was crazy for a minute, and then he was on us, and then we were both crazy. It was really, really bad. So fast forward, he had surgery to remove the mass because it was a priority to make sure that it wasn't cancerous. And after the surgery, we found out that it was benign, that it wasn't cancerous. Thank you, God. And so at that point, we had a decision to make. We could have tried for in vitro. In vitro is super expensive. And it was something that was on the table. But we were like, honestly, we said we always wanted to adopt. We always wanted to. Our plan was maybe have 2 adopt. And so I remember saying to Carl, well, why do we have to adopt last? Why can't we adopt first? Who's to say that like this isn't how it's supposed to be? I just know that at that point we were like ready. We wanted children. So either we adopt or we do in vitro, but why spend, and for those of you that have done it, look, not a knock on you, but for us, it was like, why spend all of this money when there are so many kids and we're actually passionate about this? So let's try to foster.
And we also fiscally weren't in position to do that. So
vitro,
I mean, our feelings might have been different if we had the funds, but to spend that kind of money and it wasn't guaranteed, we just couldn't risk it. And also at that time, when Rachel presented that, I was going through like depression, and like I was really down. Reality was setting in that I wasn't gonna be able to have any kids, you know. So I was kind of mourning that. And you see my wife, she's solid in and out, amazing person, and I'm sitting here dealing with the idea that this woman can't have a child because of me. So in my mind, I almost really wanted her, and I did talk to you about like, hey, look, when we decided to get married, it was under the assumption that we would be able to have a family and be able to do all these things. And I don't want you to feel like you have to sacrifice that for me. So if you felt like, you know, this is not what you wanted, because it's not what you signed up for. You thought you were going to be able to have kids with me. My dad had 10 kids. Everybody is fruitful in my family. So it's like there was no indication that there was going to be infertility on my side. And so I was like, hey, you know, if you want out, because I always did that. Like, you know, I don't want you to suffer with me. I know I'm suffering. And I know I hear God talking, but I ain't seeing it. And I was just tired at that point because we had been through so much. I was just tired. So I was like, hey, you know, if you want to go, and then she's like, let's adopt. And I'm like, do you really want to adopt? You know? And so we went through a period of time, like, is this just a knee-jerk reaction because we can't have kids and she just want to fill the house with the net, you know, fill the home with some kids and, you know, but then not really want it. And I've seen, you know, working in mental health that people will take in kids and not really want the kids and then send the kids back, you know, and then these kids are traumatized. So I didn't want to put anybody through that. You know, these little kids deserve better.
So we ended up going through the whole process of foster, you know, getting licensed. That was the thing, because you have to get your home checked. You have to get police reports on your house. You have to get fire extinguisher. You have to have people come in and sit with you and ask you all kinds of personal, super personal questions, like how often do you have sex, and do y'all really like each other, and why did you decide?
Crazy.
They didn't ask that.
They did.
No, they did
She
not.
did ask. I thought she did. I was like, that's really invasive.
So we went through all of that and we got licensed. And I remember, and for those of you that are going through this process or have, you will definitely relate. I remember getting licensed, finally like, all right, green light, you can get a call any day. And I remember setting all the numbers of our foster agency to a special ringer that would ring, because my phone was normally on Do Not Disturb at 8 o'clock. But it would ring despite Do Not Disturb. And I remember like not being able to sleep, like waking up and checking my phone, like, oh, did I miss a call?
Yeah, you are.
I joined all the Facebook groups.
All the groups.
And now we're both in them and love them. But we joined all these Facebook groups.
Those are good groups.
They're solid groups. So if you're going through this,
Please.
I highly recommend you look up those groups.
Get in those groups, man.
They're like support groups. Like
So
Foster
awesome,
Village is one that's local to Texas. But there's all kinds of groups.
Amazing
so
groups.
we join the groups. I remember reading other people's stories. Like there were always these questions about how long did it take for you to get your first kid, and you know, what happened after your first kid? How long did your first kid stay? And just reading all these things. And I remember some people saying it took us 6 months to get our first placement. So I'm like, no way. It only took us a week. So a week after we got licensed. It was before Thanksgiving, and I remember getting a call, and they said we have siblings. Little boy, little girl. The baby was like 4 months old, and the boy was 1. And so we got them, and I remember them coming in, and the baby was asleep in her carrier, and we filled out all the paperwork the first night. And it's real, y'all. It's like you go through all of this, and then boom, someone's at your doorstep, and they come in, and you don't know how they're gonna be. You don't know what their personality is gonna be like. You don't know, how much they're gonna cry at nighttime, or if they're gonna sleep through the night, or you don't know anything. Like you don't know what they're gonna look like. Nothing. So they came in, and I just remember seeing their little faces, and I was like instantly in love. And you fill out the paperwork that you have to fill out for placement, and then the worker leaves, and then it's real. It becomes real. Like, wait, no one's here with us. We have 2 kids. So we went from 0 kids to 2 kids under the age of 1. And I remember the little girl that we had she was a baby, so she woke up a lot during the night. So we were instantly waking up, feeding the baby. Luckily, our foster son slept through the night pretty well.
Yeah, he did.
But it was so cute. He was so protective over her. We didn't have them very long. We only had them for like 3 months, maybe. If that. Might have been like 2 months.
2 months.
We had them really short, but I remember when we got the call that they were going home, us both just crying because we fell in love with them, and we didn't know if they were going to end up being like our long-term kids or what. And luckily, when we took them back to their mother, she asked us to be their godparents. So we ended up getting 2 new godchildren, and we have a great relationship with them. We can still see them. She's amazing. She deserves to get them back. She messages us. She's a great mom. And so they tell you reunification is the goal.
Yeah.
And I think we'll probably do a video on that later, so I don't want to go in depth on that. Because I feel 2 ways about that. I feel like reunification should be the goal when reunification is what's best for the child. I'm just going to be transparent because that's what these videos are for. I also feel like the state tends to say reunification is the goal because it's what's best for their pocket. Point blank and period. It's not always about the children, but you can hide behind that and say, we want to reunite families and do good for families, and hide behind something that looks great that really isn't what's best. In this situation, it was what's best.
Well, certainly it was what was best.
Yeah, and so we were happy about that. But it was sad, right? Like they left, not even 24 hours. After they left, we got a call.
Oh, man.
12 hours later, we got a call. I remember I was getting a massage. And my phone, that ringer went off in my massage. And they were like, we have a little girl. Do you want this little girl? She has 11 fractures and different stages of healing. Different stages of healing. Will you take her? And I remember calling Carl. And we were like, yeah, we'll do it. And by this time, so I guess we only had them for maybe close to 2 months, the first 2, because around this time it was getting close to Christmas.
Yeah.
And so we got this little girl.
It was the 14th, December 14th. I remember the day.
Look at that. So I remember we got the girl. I rushed home, and I actually got there at the same time as the caseworker that was bringing her. And I remember seeing her little ponytail. We picked her up out of the car. She was so cute. She was bad. But she was so cute.
Off the chain, boy. That's my baby, man.
She turned up this house.
That's my baby, boy.
She turned up this house.
Oh, my God. That's my baby.
Miss her so much.
I miss her so much.
So that story, again, we're going to go in depth in other videos. We're just giving you an overview of why and kind of where we are today. And so you'll have to tune into our channel to hear specifics and in these stories, the stuff that we can share in these stories. But so we had her for a week, and I remember sitting on the couch and we had put her to bed, and she was always in the beginning really hard to get to go to sleep, but she fell asleep. And it was weird because it just wasn't like her to like sleep through the night. But that night she chose to sleep through the night. And I remember sitting and watching TV, and we had our stockings that we had hung up from the first two kids. And so there was a boy and girl stocking. And I remember telling my husband, we should take the boy stocking down because we only have a girl now. And he goes, no, we should keep it up. It was like not even 10 minutes later, y'all, we got a call. Not even 10 minutes later, we got a call.
Dog.
For a boy.
Yeah.
And he came in and he was the same age as our foster daughter that we had at the time. And oh my God, he was huge. He was a month apart, so it was like we had twin 1-year-olds at the time.
Yes, sir.
We had like two it was like twins. Yeah. And I remember he came in, he didn't want to be held. Nah, he didn't want to be hugged. He ran in a circle. just ran. And I was so tired by the time hours. The paperwork was done and the caseworkers left. Carl was like, just go to bed.
Little blue shirt just running.
Carl was like, just go to bed. So I remember going to bed, checking on the baby, and she was asleep. Yeah. And he stayed up, and then maybe like after like an hour, Carl sent me a text message. He fell out on the floor.
He's on the floor asleep.
He picked him up.
And
put him in the crib. And I remember the next morning when we had them have breakfast next to each other, and she looked like, who is that? Like, it was just me. Who is this person that has come into my home? Who is this? And then after that,
she was spicy, man. Yeah. A little feisty thing. Yeah, they were. They were solid, man. And you know what? When we got her, she was on formula, never had any solids, man, just couldn't sit up because her arm was the size of a little golf ball, you know what I'm saying? She had a small arm, like a little baseball. It was really swole. And, she ended up healing up, and she ended up learning how to crawl. And when she learned how to walk, she had the little waddle. Oh my gosh, man.
We used to look at the two of them and be like, this is kind of how you can tell the difference in development, because they were only a month apart. Mm-hmm. And he, in our opinion, was pretty well taken care of, I believe, before he came in our home. And I don't necessarily believe that she was in the same way. No. And so you could see the love on him. Oh, yeah. And the need for love on her.
He was loved.
You could see the difference.
It was loved.
Night and day. Yeah. From the moment we got him, I did not have the same concerns. I remember feeling like, you know what? People go through hard things, and they say reunification is the goal. I get it. Like, I love him with all of me, but I get it. And with her, it was hard because how do you when you have a baby that has all those fractures and you have to send them back, you're like, I don't know. And just seeing, when I saw him with his family, there was love there. And when I saw her, it was like, question mark. So we had them for maybe 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I remember I had a retreat for a ministry that I do. And directly after that ministry, I came home. We had the 2 babies still. Mm-hmm. And along the way, we were getting these emails because adoption was always the goal for us. And we'll probably go in more depth about this later, but adoption was always the goal for us. So because we opened our home as foster parents, if any foster kid that we got just ended up, the plan ended up becoming adoption, like they decided that reunification was not what was best, then we would have been first in line to adopt. But there's no promise with that, because you can bring kids in, rehabilitate them, and then they go home, and that's what foster care is supposed to be about. So there are some kids that they have gotten to the point of parents' rights are being terminated. What is best for this child is adoption, and they need a home, and they're looking for those homes already. Mm-hmm. And so in the state of Texas, they send out what they call broadcasts. And so foster placements are usually emergency. So it's like middle of the night, you get a call, someone has to be removed, will you take the kid? When you get these broadcasts, there's emails that come and there's a file on the child. They tell you about the child. They tell you they're looking for a home because the parents' rights are terminated. You can hear ours now. And we had said yes to this little boy. And I remember we had said yes to like 10, 15 kids because there's people all over the state that say yes. So the chances of you getting selected are not as likely. So I remember we said yes because we hadn't gotten calls back for like any of them, but then we got this call back for this little boy. When I remember when I looked back at our response, we kind of said yes or something along the lines of yes to most kids, but with this particular kid, I responded yes, absolutely, for sure. Like it was like a different response. And so I remember our agency called us and said, hey, you've been picked for this little boy. And so I remember calling Carl and I said, we got picked. I know we have 2 1-year-olds at this moment, but this is what we signed up for. It was to adopt.
Lord.
And he said, say yes.
3 toddlers.
So we got 3 toddlers.
In one house.
We got him fairly quickly. About 2 weeks after that, we got him.
Yeah.
And he was 2 when we got him.
Yeah, it's 2.
It was March. We got him in March.
Yeah, March 27th.
So, yeah, we picked him up. We had 3 kids for a while, and they got along really, really well. The little girl that we had ended up going home maybe like 3 months after we got him. And then
in July.
And then our foster son went home directly after that. So at one point we had the 2 boys. And when our foster son went home, we were extremely happy for him.
Yeah.
We get him every other weekend.
Oh, yeah.
We're his godparents too, and we love him so much. And his mom is amazing, and she's doing really, really well.
So
and
proud of
we
her.
are ecstatic for her, and we'll
Right
always
there.
be there for him.
Always.
We'll always be there for her.
Yep.
And this is why, people say, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it. But there are situations where you're like, man, I get to still be in his life or her life. And no, that doesn't always happen. So I can't tell you do this because that's what will happen, but it might, and we're not in our foster daughter's life that went home, our 3rd placement. We have no communication with them. We don't know how she's doing, and that is hard. It's hard because she was especially bonded with Carl.
Yeah.
He had that father-daughter vibe with her. So you can kind of see it in him right now. He's a little sad.
Yeah.
That was his baby. So, I mean, that was hard. So we got our son. And so here we are, paper pregnant. The process, however, took...
Paper pregs.
I know. The process took a year and like 3 months.
Yeah.
It's a crazy story. So we're going to have to tell you that story in another video, so make sure that you stay tuned. But we decided to do this because we felt like it was meant for us. We felt like it was something that we said we would always do. And we just decided that instead of picking our timing, let's just allow God to pick his timing.
Yeah.
I do want to mention, though, before I do end this, that we found out like maybe a month ago. Carl was having some discomfort again, so he went to the doctor.
Yeah.
You want to tell him what the doctor said?
With all that being said, we found a problem. I have another surgery scheduled. When that surgery scheduled, y'all pray for Rachel. All right? Cause it's going down in the boom boom room. Yeah.
So,
I'm straight. Gonna have some babies.
say all this to
Be
say
fertile.
that the issue actually was there
Yeah.
before we got any of the children that were in our home.
Yeah.
The urologist that we went to happened to not see it, but had he seen it, it would have been fixed and we would have
Been
just
pregnant.
been pregnant.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that this was what was supposed to happen. That this is how it was supposed to be. There's nothing in the world that I would do differently, because our son is our son, and we are so happy. We are so happy to have him. It doesn't matter if I carried him. Everything that we went through, it was worth it, because our son is here, and it's everything that we wanted. And the crazy thing is, after all of this, after everything, you know, that we just described to you, like, you would think that, like, okay, we found out we can have kids, like, let's have 5. I want to adopt more. Yeah. Like, I actually am not done adopting. So for those of you that think, oh, like, people adopt because they can't have children, that's not even always the case. Mm-hmm. I have a heart for this now. I want to do this. There are so many kids that need a home. And Carl mentioned at the beginning of the video that, like, when people find out that we are adopting, they're like, thank you, I'm adopted. Yeah. Just today, we went to take pictures. The photographer was like, thank you for doing this. My brother and I are adopted. Yeah. Directly after that, we went to eat. And when we went to eat, the cashier said, oh my gosh, are you adopting? I'm adopted. There are so many people that are adopting. You have no idea. You have no clue. And yet there are so many kids in the system. When we went for our training, before we got licensed, the woman told us that there's a misconception that there are more minorities in the system than there are Caucasian kids. She said the reality is that it's actually not true, but there are more minorities left in the system. So people think that there are more because they don't get adopted. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that part of that is because we don't adopt that much. Yeah. And it is a need.
It's our community dropping the ball.
It is.
It really is.
There is a need. And listen, it's not for everybody. I understand that, but it is for us. So we wanted to share our story so that you understood why we did it. So that you understand that we're going to be a resource for you, so that you can learn more about the system, more about the process, answer any questions that you might have. We're going to be real and be raw and tell you everything about this journey. But we definitely want to be a support system for those that have gone through this, for those that plan to, or for those that just want to learn just a little bit more about it. So thank you for tuning in to our story. We're paper burgers.
Yeah.